everybody, it's Terry and Tim
Hello.
from Money Matters for Everybody, and it's been a while.
It has.
I feel like it's been a while. It's been busy on the homestead, so there's a couple things. Like there's always something we can talk about when it comes to money, right? And I think that so I thought today would be a good day to record a video. We had a date morning at breakfast. We talked a little bit about our agenda to talk about money today.
Yeah.
Do you want to kick it off here?
Yeah. So a couple of things we were going to talk about today one is this new trend of everybody asking for tips.
Yes.
I had taken the boys out for a treat to Dunkin' Donuts last weekend, and they don't even have people at the counter, just kiosks to place your order and make payments. You can't even pay by cash. You have to pay with either a credit card or a gift card. And so there's no one there to either place your order with, to pay with, but there was a tip jar on the counter. There wasn't a penny in it, but there was a tip jar on the counter asking for tips for not being there to service you with your order. I mean, I guess the tips will go to whoever's making the order, but I'm sure they're making a wage better than what a server at a restaurant is making.
Yeah, I remember. You and I were both servers at one point, or server chef, and I can't remember if we made like minimum wage.
Well, that job paid a little bit better than normal server jobs, but back when we were in college and working a couple different jobs, one of them was being a server. I remember working at the Ground Round. It's not around for decades anymore, but
was that a chain?
Yeah, it was. But working at the Ground Round, and my hourly rate was like $2.63 or $2 something per hour, but you were making the tips. But I'm willing to bet, I can't say that I know for a fact, but I'm willing to bet that the people working at Dunkin' Donuts are making at least normal minimum wage.
Yeah.
Not $2.63 and solely surviving on tips.
Yeah, but I think the other thing is, so I see that as well, and I don't feel obligated to tip counter service. I absolutely will say that hands down. I feel that you and I are very generous with our money, and I don't feel obligated under any circumstances to give a tip at a counter service. That being said, sometimes I do. I went to pick up sandwiches today. My mama's in town, so we spent a fair amount of time takeaway because there's like a little deli nearby that is very nostalgic for us, I would say.
Yeah.
And so I went and got some sandwiches, and there's 5 of us. I got 5 sandwiches, so I put $5 in the tip jar.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll do that as well. Like if we go to the local pizza shop and get sandwiches or pizza, there's somebody at the counter taking the payment and handing over the food. I'll usually tip a couple bucks depending on how much the total is. I typically round to the next 5 or 10 wherever I'm at.
That tipping culture in the U.S. is quite crazy. I think I really do. I don't think that they do this in the EU in Europe.
Yeah, I think I'd seen a Facebook reel or something that in some parts of Europe tipping is frowned upon and seen almost as an insult. But
I mean, I don't think anybody would really
I don't think anyone
getting a couple extra dollars in their pocket. But I do think that this expectation that I personally think that it would come to a point where maybe people would decide, I'm not going to support that local business because I'm going to be asked to tip.
Right.
And I feel bad if I don't tip. I do not feel bad for not tipping at counter service. I just don't. I guess I don't have that gene. That being said, I will tip from time to time if I'm if I'm feeling particularly generous or not consistently. I wouldn't let it necessarily stop me. I'm not going to pay Starbucks. We don't really go to Starbucks, so kind of take it as a grain of salt here. But I'm not going to pay $6 for my latte and give an extra, 15% tip to the barista who's making $15 an hour.
Right.
No. So there is part of that. I think it's part of that tipping culture. It's kind of interesting to.
Yeah, and I don't know when it started that counter service and like fast food-ish type restaurants which started putting out tip jars asking for tips.
Probably right along with every other backwards movement we've had in this country recently. So anyhow, that's interesting. Okay. So what do you think about tipping at counter service? I did see a comment that said, I see a bunch of people here commenting that have obviously never worked in food service. And I'm like, no, I did. And I don't feel any obligation to tip because I pay for the food, the service, and
Yeah,
the
and
expectation is that if you any charges that you want to put into the line item for the food is one thing. For a sit down service,
yeah, and that's what
we
I was about to
always
say.
tip 20% minimum.
Yeah, minimum 20% whenever we're at a sit down restaurant and we're being served by a server.
And yeah,
I think comparatively we tip on the higher end, especially when we go out with others. And I see the tips that
yeah.
other people were out.
Some people just tip like 15%, and we tend to start at 20, so we'll tip 20% on average, right?
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever tipped. Like maybe I would tip 15% for poor service. Probably not though, because I feel that there's usually something else going on
Yeah.
for that
And
to have poor service. So a lot of things going on in the household recently. This week I helped TJ get his TJs Lawn Company YouTube channel underway. There has been a reminder that some of the pain points that I had in establishing our YouTube channel and editing our videos, which by the way, editing is like a time suck. I'll be honest with you. It's really motivational for me to get it right the first time and just be done and pop it up. But that being said, I think there's a lot of creative elements that can go into creating.
Yeah.
And so there's some things I've learned over the last, I think I launched this one in August, this channel, Money Matters for Everybody. I don't think we really got involved in posting videos for months later.
Yeah.
But I was sitting editing TJ's video and I thought, oh, I've learned some lessons here, so I can take that along the way. And I'd like to get a little bit more experience with that because I think it's fun to be a little creative.
A little bit more
yep.
creative and fancy.
And at some point, I'll be managing the primetime photography page, YouTube page, as you start your journey into photography. These are things that you can do when you're out of debt, right? Yeah. We are at a point in our lives, at a point in our debt journey, at a point in our wealth building that we are able to sit back and say, do we really feel like we love what we're doing? Do we really feel that we're compensated well for what we're doing? And what else would you do? Like, what do you think your next steps? What do you think you want your next steps to be? And kind of move in that direction. Right. So for Tim's always had an artistic element to him. Figuring out how to transfer photos to into Lightroom yesterday.
It was not working for me.
Wow, I've become a little bit more advanced on, because normally this is something I would hand to you as my IT guy, and now I was able to.
It was just not working the way it did last week.
Right. It broke. So yeah, you want to talk about that at all?
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, like Terry said, being debt free allows us freedom to explore things we're more passionate about, and what our next steps might be. And like she said, for me, that's making a move into photography and establishing my photography business is pretty much what I've been doing so far. Is establishing my brand presence and building out a Facebook page, Instagram.
How I built your web page.
Terry built up
it took an hour.
A web page for me.
Primetimephotography.net.
Yep, primetimephotography.net. Check me out.
And you're getting practice.
So far I've had the opportunity to photograph a couple events. One being Terry's family reunion last week, and then a country fair at my son's school last night. Just taking photographs for the events and sharing them. Last night's case with the school for them to use for their marketing purposes, and hopefully just getting my name out there. And just in talking with the other parents there, and letting them know that this is my next step. And I've already from these conversations I had just last night, I've picked up at least one follower that I saw this morning, and I have a few alerts that I haven't had a chance to look at yet. But
that's awesome.
So
and it just really is a testament to you when you get out of debt, you do have options, and you have options. I guess when you're in debt, it just makes it a little harder.
And the options are go to work or go to work.
Go to work or go to work. Go to multiple works. So now we have TJ's Lawn Company on YouTube, primetimephotography.net, which doesn't have a YouTube yet, but that'll be coming soon. We have Radio Ryan on YouTube as well. His are more simple because they're like music videos and tutorials, and hasn't been super involved in that lately. We're trying to kind of pick that back up. I think we're going to change that from Radio Ryan over to like RCS music or something, right? That's something more in line with him. And this morning I surprised him by going up to his bedroom and trying to play the starting line on piano for one of his favorite bands, Imagine Dragons. And then we still have Tiny Apple Homestead, which I kind of haven't really done a lot with. But
about to record a video for Tiny Apple Homestead's YouTube channel, and we're getting the the garden's ready for the upcoming season. I have to post a update on the chickens, and
Good.
um,
Yeah, they've multiplied.
we're gonna have a big
We're gonna move the
move. We're
coop.
gonna move their coop.
Yes, we're gonna move their
So,
coop.
imagine, when they move a house and they bring in a tractor trailer and they put the house up on stilts. No, it's not gonna be that big.
You're so funny.
It's gonna require a few people and
Yeah, you live
a
and
lot of
learn.
muscles.
You live and learn. Raising chickens has been fun, but there's a lot of learning that goes into that.
They need space to run, and my entire backyard is not
It's
it.
not it. It's not it. So we'll talk about that on Tiny Apple Homestead. We had a little bit of a chicken pecking issue and had to address it, and the solution was not the best solution for your backyard, but
Or my gardens.
or your garden. So we will restore it, but I'm excited to see what that looks like as an end product for them, because it's going to be a little bit of a bigger run, and they're going to have a little bit of an area where they're going to be able to play and dust feed and have some obstacles in there to keep them busy and stop them from pecking each other. So back to the topic of money, shall we? So a couple months ago, I had shared with our viewers that I had dropped to a 0.6 FTE, full-time equivalent at work. And of course, like Murphy's Law, that happened in March. And in March, we had like a major car repair. And then in April, like things just kept happening. It did stress me out. I don't know that it stressed you out.
Well, you being stressed out in turn stresses me out.
Excellent. I'm so glad. Glad that works that way, I guess. So I actually went back to 0.8 as effective May 1st, which is a much better. I think it's a lot more of a financial balance than 0.6. 0.6 was basically cutting pay in half and feeling squeezed to contribute to the 401k and pay our bills and put money away. So I think that that's like the biggest challenge, I guess I would say, with going down to 0.6 was I didn't feel like we could put anything away because we were too busy chasing our tails. Right. So 0.8 will allow us to get to a place of being able to put money away into savings, and I'll also have Fridays off. We're at 0.6. I was just doing 6-hour days Monday through Thursday, and if you're going to go to work, you might as well just work the whole day. So 0.8 it is. That should help us. Are you excited about that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then that's that. And then saving for vacation. Also a reminder that if you have an opportunity here where we live in Pennsylvania, we have the option to select our electrical supplier and kind of shop out the rates. Please don't ask me why. Like, I feel like you go to the electric company, they should have the cheapest rates for people.
Yeah.
That's not how it is here. I suspect it's not how it is. I suspect it's the same in a lot of different places. So our electrical kilowatt hours actually, I think, went up to 14 cents a kilowatt hour last year, but because we had locked in with a service provider, a different provider through the electrical company, essentially it was through their website, we were able to keep our rate at about 8 cents per kilowatt hour. And now the electrical company is going to lower their rate from 14 cents per kilowatt hour to 12 cents per kilowatt hour. This provider, the supplier that supplied us for this last year, is coming to us through email and asking us to sign up for that with them again for not the same 8%. It's like 7% off of the list rate or something. It works out funny. And ultimately, I was like, oh, yeah, sure, we'll stay with them. And then had to read the fine print to come find there was like an early cancellation fee. It wasn't the same terms.
Right.
So now I'm on the hunt I have to go out and spend some time looking at all of the suppliers that are involved, that are offering programs, and sit down and review them. I have to make sure that there's no early cancellation fee, make sure that the rate, because sometimes they'll say as low as 6 or 7 cents a kilowatt hour, and then when you get in there and you plug in because I know we use about 1,400 kilowatt hours per month on average throughout the year, and they go, oh, no, you use too much, so we put you at like 14 cents a kilowatt hour.
Or some of them have different rates for different times of day.
Yeah, they're variable. Yeah, and we all work from home, so it kind of makes it a little bit tricky.
Especially in the summertime with air conditioning running and the pool pump.
Yeah, so we'll definitely be looking at that, and always looking at ways to make us more efficient. I don't necessarily agree that solar panels are efficient. Those things go into the ground after they're done their 30-year life, and I have the same opinion of them as I do of lithium-ion batteries. Like, they go in the ground. Do you want them to go in your backyard? Because I don't want them in my backyard. I think that you should. Like, I think that if you have solar panels on your house, or if you're driving around a lithium-ion battery, you should have to put it in your backyard when you're done with it. Dig, 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 stack, stack, stack. Cover. Do you think people would buy them if they had to do that?
I don't know.
And I doubt it. I'm willing to recommend. I'm willing to bet that they don't. I think got a little spicy there, right? Okay, so that's the electrical piece. Otherwise, I feel like budgetary. I feel like prices for food and such haven't been too bad for us.
Yeah, I mean, at least some of the staples for us have kind of
Leveled up.
stabilized a little bit and come down a bit. Um, I mean, just an example that you learned of yesterday was at the country fair where they sell the strawberry pies. And last year, I didn't even remember how much they cost last year because last year I think we got the family pack, so it was
It's a fundraiser, so
all rolled
just,
into one. So
you should start with that.
it's a fundraiser for the school. So
Last
fundraisers are going to be maybe a little bit more expensive than
raise
other
the
things,
funds,
but
right?
but apparently the strawberry pie that they were charging $22 for this year, but it was very much worth the $22. It was very good.
They're excellent. Oops. Oh dear. There we go.
It was $22 for the pie this year. From what Terry was told yesterday when she was helping make them for the fair, it cost $25 last year because of the
Inflation,
cost
yeah,
of the
materials
ingredients and everything.
supplies. Yeah,
So
it's
things
crazy.
are definitely starting to level set and get back to not normal, but maybe approaching back to reasonability.
I do think that one place that actually is pretty good about keeping prices in check is Aldi. I
Yeah,
will say. Now, recently, their Never Any chicken is about $3.99 a pound, and I've had a couple packs that are like questionable. So I am going to look at our local like BJ's wholesale club to see the chickens there
or the meat market.
or the meat market, and if I can find out where the meat market, as long as they're like no antibiotics, that's important to me. No antibiotics, no no growth hormones. So, can I ask you for your opinion on? There's a lot of rhetoric going around lately about the market is going to crash. That these indicators might suggest that the market's going to crash. My investments since the start of the year are at a 9% rate of return. Just this year, I'm still kind of negative if you look over the last couple of years.
Yeah,
But since January, it's 9%, which I think is pretty good. So I want your opinion on your thoughts about, are we headed for a crash?
caveat: I don't follow markets much at all. I avoid news at all costs. If it's not on Sports Center, it's not news to me. So, but yeah, I think there's always going to be buyers and sellers. So there's yes, it might stay lower than it had been in years past for a bit, but I don't think it's going for a complete crash. I think the market has grown and has built up enough in the years since the last crashes that I don't want to say it's crash proof, but I don't think there's going to be as big of losses as had been seen previously, at least not over such a rapid period of time.
Yeah, it's actually interesting. I wrote an article on Substack this week called Fear is Not My Future. And the purpose of this article was kind of to address that there are people who are making claims that we're headed for a disaster. I know there's a lot of talk about the U.S. raising the debt ceiling. This continues to come up. I have to assume that the interest just continues to, I mean, obviously, right? You're talking trillions. I don't even know what the interest on that per day is. And I talked about how we have the power within our own house to have a bigger impact than our state houses and our White House. But then 2 days later, I wrote another article about how you have to get out and vote because if you don't vote, then your state houses are gonna potentially squeeze you. We live in Pennsylvania. Our state income tax is 3%, 3.07 ish. The state to the east of us is New Jersey, and to the north of us is New York, and they have a graduated tax system where we would probably pay about 9% in state income taxes in either of those. If Pennsylvania does that, we will not be Pennsylvania residents anymore. We will just be one of those people, one of those families that raises our hands and moves to Florida, I guess, and that's or Tennessee, which they have tornadoes, so I'm just not sure.
No beaches.
And no beaches. So it's just kind of a reminder that it doesn't really matter, right? It doesn't really matter if the market crashes, right? If you have no debt, and you have a pretty secure emergency fund, not in the market. If your emergency fund's in the stock market, you're screwed. Yes, if there's something goes wrong, you will be impacted. But if you don't have any debt and you have a nice secure emergency fund set aside, high yield savings, some of it maybe put away in a safe at home, not all of it because your house could burn down, then it's, it doesn't matter. It simply doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And I think that is the consistent reminder that I have for people is that control the controllables, do what you can to get out of debt and make things less crazy should the whole market collapse. I have a really hard time believing that the whole market would collapse.
Yeah.
I still think the United States economy is absolutely a safe bet. It doesn't matter who's in the White House. I still believe that even in the darkest of times, there's always a glimmer of light and hope and opportunity that can shine through. I think you have to look for it, or you have to know that it's there without even being able to see it. And I think that, I think it would be very difficult for the entire stock market to crash.
Yeah.
There's a lot of money in the U.S. stock market. There's a ton of money in the U.S. stock market. And I guess if enough people pull their money out, which I don't think that people are that foolish, if there was a run on the money in the stock market, I guess that there could come a time when it would be so catastrophic. But I think that enough people are in the market who have their financial house in order that know how this story is going to end.
Right.
So I believe that the U.S. economy and the U.S. overall is still a safe bet. I think it might get hard. I think our returns might not be 10 to 12% for a couple years, if ever. But I think the purpose and the goal, again, get out of debt, set aside your emergency fund, learn how to grow your own food, learn how to grow some of your own food. Empower yourself to be in a position where you can grow your own food, make your own bread, roast your own chicken, grow your own tomatoes. Because then store-bought, like Jess says down at Roots and Refuge, store-bought tomatoes taste like disappointment. Oh my gosh, they do, don't they?
Yeah. Just like the case of Ryan, like in summertime, he loves eating tomatoes from our garden, but the rest of the year he'll eat them occasionally, but not as much.
They're just disappointing. Yeah. They're so disappointing. I have blueberries that are growing out here. I planted them last year. We have clay-like soil, so I planted them in the ground, and I put soil like bumper crop in there with them, and I made it acidic. And I was like, good luck, and walked away. They got their water, and then surprisingly this year I was like, oh, they're coming back. So we get some blueberries. I would love, love, love to have a ton of blueberry and a ton of strawberry plants. And if we could get enough blueberries and strawberries to freeze throughout the year, we'd save a lot of money.
Yeah.
We'd save a lot of money. All right, anything else you got going on?
No, I think that's everything for
I
today.
do think that's it. So just a little reminder and a little bit of encouragement that you can't really necessarily control everything around you, but you can control the controllables. So get on a budget, get out of debt, build an emergency fund, and find a way to make money that inspires you and that serves others. Because I think that's such a great...
Absolutely.
It doesn't mean that it's like easy.
Right. In no ways is it mean it's going to be easy. It's still going to be work. It's still going to...
It's going to have its ups and downs.
Right.
TJ actually recorded a video with him just this week about having to fire one of his customers and how hard that was, and how I walk away thinking, wow, he's 16. He's getting such a great experience, right? They would have been so easy to flip the customer off, right? But he didn't.
No.
He totally didn't. He handled it with the utmost professionalism and makes us proud.
Absolutely.
So that is that. So just a reminder that there are a lot of things within your control. There's a lot of things that aren't, but there are some things that are. So you're going to have to get to work and put in the time, energy, and effort to get yourself into a place where, guess what? You don't have to worry about it. Just watch the story and the storm unfold. All right, guys, thanks for your time. Have a great week.